Hi, this is Max Dennison from Rec2Tech, Parks and Recreation, for another session of Tech Talks. Today we have my guest, Tanisha Austin, Pittsburgh native, and we're going to talk about her journey and how she got into tech. Tanisha, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, tell them a little bit about your mission, and then we'll get into your story.
Hi, I am Tanisha Austin. I currently work at TIAA. That is a financial retirement organization. I work as a lead information security governance and risk specialist in the configuration management space. And my mission in life is to enrich the lives of others through acts of service and information sharing. So I look forward to being able to share my journey and how I began this tech career that I formulated here. I didn't necessarily begin the traditional route. So hopefully I'll be able to give insight on how to trickle in if you didn't per se have like a computer science degree. And also bring awareness so that we can have some sort of balance within the industry in terms of people of color and women in the tech space, letting them know different areas that are available within security and even technology in general. So,
All right, thank you. Thank you, Tanisha. And we're going to get right into it. I'm going to go a little bit less traditional today. I'm not going to walk through your childhood. I will mention that Tanisha did go to the best high school in the city of Pittsburgh. She's a Shinley graduate, and I'm a Shinley graduate as well. So, there's something special about that. But my first question for you is, please, for the audience, tell them the title and then tell them exactly what that means.
okay, so my current title right now, I have a lead role. So I have some people that work up under me, but I work as an information security governance and risk specialist.
Okay.
What that entails is basically the policies and governance around the technologies that we put onto our system and onto our network that our customers use or employees use. We have to make sure that we are following government regulated standards to ensure security and safety and integrity of our data so that your information can't be stolen. We're doing everything to put blocks and protection in place for threat actors to not be able to gain access to that information, as well as insider threat, right? People that work in the organization that might have bad intentions. We also have governance around those and ensure that all of our application teams, all of our network, and all of our infrastructure has all of those protocols in place to keep all of our data in our organization safe.
Got you. Got you. Okay. So safety, a lot of times when people hear about cybersecurity, they're thinking, you know, Russia, but there's actually security in all industries and in all companies, I'm assuming. How did you choose cybersecurity? How did you make your, or what? Let's start with that. What made you go into cybersecurity?
I will agree with you on that. When you think of cybersecurity, you instantly think of hackers and
Right, right. The dark
all of
web.
those. But what happened was it was actually introduced to me. I had been working at a healthcare plan in Pittsburgh. I was doing database administration work. Basically, I was building databases through SQL queries. I taught myself that.
Hmm.
And I got an invite on LinkedIn through a recruiter who had seen my profile and thought I would be a good fit. And I thought he was crazy. The job was for vulnerability management. I had never heard of that within cybersecurity. So this was back in 2013. And I'm like, what is this? I've never even heard of this thing. So I went and I interviewed for it. And it basically was an introduction into, let's say, for instance, I don't know if you guys have heard of, let's say, for example, Microsoft. Every time you have an iPhone, right? There is a security update that comes to your phone. Those security updates, you just think, oh, it's the latest and greatest update from Apple. But really, what it is it's an update to all the vulnerabilities, all of the weaknesses within the software of the phone that Apple has fixed to stop attackers from being able to get access to your phone, access to your data, access to your applications. So in essence, vulnerability for this company, it was for a financial institution, a large financial institution in Pittsburgh. I would be basically managing teams within that institution to make them fix the bugs, the breaks, the things that have holes in it within our network. And then I would be responsible for making sure they understood what they were, what was broken, why it was important to fix it, and what it was that needed to be fixed and by when. And then they would have to provide me evidence of that fix. And so from there, that's how I got into it. It was not traditional by any sense of the word, but I will say, I believe in my heart of hearts, what got me in the door was having an undergrad degree, a bachelor's degree.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thank you for that. And talk some more about that because it's one thing to get the interview, another to get the job. And then once you get the job, that's actually the beginning. So now you got to pick up the skill set. You got to learn the language. So did you ever have a passion to be in tech? Like, or what was your turnaround time, I guess, to become comfortable in a position? Because I'm assuming that, you get the position, there's a bunch of new vocabulary, new words. What was your turnaround and how did you get the courage? I don't want to even say courage because you may just be one of those people that can just do it. But walk me through that. You get the job. Are you afraid? What did you have to learn?
Yes, I was terrified. I'm not even going to lie. It was a lot of vernacular and vocabulary that I had never heard. They spoke so comfortably about it. It was a whole new world for me. But I got in under great leadership. He said, I'm not worried about what you don't know. I can teach you those things. He cared more so about how I had great social skills. I had the ability to, although I might not know it, I might not be the smartest person in the room, I always highlighted what I did know. I always was able to observe and listen in the room of how they're speaking. And then based off of what they were stating to me, try to formulate, okay, so you're saying this and that. Trying to regurgitate what they were saying based off of my own understanding. And once I got to a certain point, I was like, can you fill in the gaps for me to help me gather that information? So it was a lot of going back to school, to be honest. And I mean on-hand school. So the environment I was immersed in, it was great leadership. And it was knowing that, okay, I don't know this. However, I want to learn. Once I got in there, once I seen the salary, once I seen the job wasn't monotonous, meaning you're not going to be doing repeatable tasks over and over again robotically. It's always new. It's always emerging. It's always changing. That for me is what exactly I was looking for in a work environment. So this career made the most sense to me. And it wasn't something that affected everyone in everyday life, technology, especially cybersecurity. Whether you have a smartphone, an iPad, a smart TV, a smart refrigerator, this field is infiltrated in every part of our lives as regular human beings. So it was just something that once I got exposed to it, I had to go to school. So for me, that looked like certifications, right? I didn't have any cybersecurity experience. I did not come from the computer science background that my counterparts did. And the people that didn't have those degrees were ex-military. So when you get into cybersecurity, you'll experience a lot of ex-military workers, and some of them are still active duty. But those are who usually make up the realm of that world other than computer science majors. So for me, I had to get on my certification game and start at the very beginning with Security Plus, learning the very basics of what that looked like for me, right? And then understanding where do I want to go within this industry? What is the next step after I started to learn more about vulnerability and the exploits that threat actors were doing? And an exploit is just them carrying out the attack. Once I started to understand like the chain of attack, how the threat actors started, some of the attacks were as simple as sending a email to a person who worked at an organization, pretending like they're their friend, and this person responds back and clicks on a link. And from that link, it gives them access to our network. And now we have malware on our network. So those type of things, when you started to read about the attacks, kind of engaged you in like, wow, that could really happen to me. I open up my email every day, even if I wasn't in cybersecurity. So I will say that was what made me want to drive harder and understand more. So I went the certification route.
Got you. And can you talk to us a little bit about the certification route? I know you said you took Secure Plus first. How tough are the certifications? If you don't have a background in computer science, how easy is it to pick up or difficult to pick up? What does the workload look like for someone? Let's just say someone has a traditional 9 to 5, 8 to 4, and they want to transition into cybersecurity, and they're going to maybe have to take a certification class in the evenings. what does the workload look like for that? How did you adjust to that, or are you just like a great test taker?
I will say I'm definitely a great test taker. I'm a natural studier, right? I'm a natural researcher. And if you want to be in cybersecurity, that is definitely a skill set you will have to have researching. Um, this is something that you cannot do if you are not passionate. Even if you can take these tests and pass the certifications, the continuing education that is required to stay even competitive in this field for organizations to keep up, because like I said, this is an ever emerging career path. It is something you have to definitely be interested in. The certification exams, for example, Security Plus, it's a basic, not, it's not basic, it's standard, I will say this, but it's the very beginning. If you wanted to get into cybersecurity, that's a good starting field. And it took me, so I dedicated personally 40 hours of study time. So that was for me, 5 days, 8 hours a day. By that sixth day, I sat for the exam. The exam is a 4-hour exam. And you have to score, the highest you can score is a 900, and you have to score a minimum of 750 to pass. It is not easy. It asks you everything from network basics to something as complex as cryptography. So it covered a lot of different domains, or sections within cybersecurity. And I will say you have to have discipline to keep yourself for these study regimens, for these certifications. You have to have very good discipline, because you could take a class, but the classes are upwards of $1,000. And the test itself is $600. So naturally, you're not going to waste your time paying $600 if you're not going to pass it, right? And you only get one retake with that. So if you fail the first time, I will say, do not get discouraged. Study harder. Don't psych yourself out. And this is one of the careers where I see a lot of women and I see a lot of people of color develop such strong imposter syndrome, thinking you don't know enough. But the fact that you're even inquiring tells you you know exactly enough to get you to where you want to be. So that's one of the important things I will definitely emphasize. But it's not for the weak. If you have a full-time job, your studying is going to look like, after you get off from work, 4 additional hours of hitting those books every day. For instead of 5 days, yours might be 7 days. And then at that point, you'll be able to go ahead and tackle that exam. But it is definitely something where it would require a lot of focus, because it's a lot of retention.
And then you spoke briefly in talking about your certifications and trying to figure out your route once you got in there. What does that look like? What are the other routes and I guess opportunities within? Because again, we put cybersecurity all in this kind of bubble as if it's one thing. So you take this, let's just say you take a few certifications, you got your feet wet. What's out there for someone who wants to be in cybersecurity?
So if you're a person who enjoys hacking, you can definitely become a SOC analyst. So you would work in a security operations center, and a security operations center analyst, which is a SOC analyst. You would basically be the person watching the network, meaning watching all of the traffic. Every time someone logs on to the network, every time someone sends an email, every time someone does anything within our network, you would be notified of that. You would analyze that traffic. You would be trained on tools that would help you determine if that's normal behavior or if it's anomalous, meaning bad behavior or behavior that we're not used to seeing. And if it's not something we're used to being seen, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but why? Did this person log on from a different location than what they're usually logged on to? Most people don't understand, like, this work from home model that we have now, how much spying is done on your networking systems. And people like myself, I used to work in the SOC. We monitor that. We know everything you do, everything you click on, every time you're not active. We know all of these things because there are tools in place that will tell you these, right? So you can be a SOC analyst, that's one area. Threat intelligence analyst, that's another one where you actually research the attacks, and then you'll pull out the different artifacts, the different data sets that the threat actors use to execute those attacks, and then you'll take those that data, and you'll put a block on your system so that anything that has that bad data in it can't ever infiltrate your system. It can't get through. So threat intelligence also does a lot of like reporting. So you'll write about the attacks that you've seen or that you've witnessed. You'll collaborate with other institutions to see what they're seeing on their network and comparing notes. Threat intelligence is another great area. That's my true passion. You can also do fraud intelligence with fraud. That includes insider threat. With insider threat, you would literally be monitoring employees that work for you. So your peers, people in different teams within your organization that you work for, you're watching them 24/7, everything they do, their social media profiles, what they post on social media, the pictures that they use. Is it violating any company policies? These are all things that people don't know when you're working for an organization is being tracked because it's called a digital footprint. Everything we do online creates a digital footprint. So it's all traceable. Another area that you can consider going into is penetration testing, right? Where you actually are a white hat hacker, which means a good hacker. You do good things. You know that Microsoft released a new email platform and your company's thinking about standing it up. So your job is to try to break it. Try every way possible to break this application. Try every way possible to get into it illegally. And that's your job all day. Is to, and even existing applications, right? We just did an upgrade on our existing platform for Zoom. So now your job is to go out and test to make sure that Zoom is actually working. You guys are actually protected. So that's another area as well. And also technical writing, right? I did that with Microsoft. You can become a technical writer where you just write all day about threats, attackers. You'll track different threat actors, the regions that they're from, Russia, China, North Korea, some of the big ones, Iran, those different places. So you'll have a very good output of reports tracking those different attacks and threat actors. But there's a lot of things that you can do. And even that area that I'm in now, which is infrastructure configuration management, which this is just dealing with the governance around the technology. This is dealing with managing the controls that we put on the different technologies that we have in order to ensure that they're safeguarded and protected, especially with everything going into the cloud. You might hear the cloud a lot, even in regular, you have your iCloud, if you have an iPhone. So with everything, when you're working remotely, all of that is on the cloud for your organization. So with configuration management, a lot of the job with that is ensuring that we have proper governance, proper protocols in place that are keeping us protected and safe from any bad attacks and threat actors getting into our system by a network we stand up or an application we stand up straight out the box. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, that was a lot, and I appreciate you for breaking that down. That was a lot of information, a lot of different terms. Excuse me, I had a cough. But so if somebody's trying to get started and they're in high school, can they intern? How do you reach a younger person? I guess I would say.
Yes. If you're in high school, there are several summer programs. I know a lot of, especially within the Pittsburgh area, a lot of like financial institutions will institute summer programs. A lot of them partner with Carnegie Mellon. I know they're a very big player with high school students that want to enter into technology in general, particularly cybersecurity. But there are a lot of programs and camps that you can go to that will partner with financial institutions that will introduce you into the different organizations. And if you're in high school, I would definitely say it's a good time to learn things like this. Honestly, YouTube University is a great start, right? That is a very great start where you don't have to invest any capital and it's free, right? It'll give you an introduction to let you know that before you go to college to decide, well, maybe I want to do a computer science major or something of that nature. But I would say the opportunities are more affordable, more afforded to college students, because I know all of the financial institutions do something called a technical rotation, where college students will come during the summer and rotate throughout the different areas of cybersecurity and work. I think it's like a couple of weeks within each department to determine which one they like the most. And at the end of that program, they'll write a report on it. And I will always say this, every person that I've known that has done that rotation in college has come back to be a full-time employee. So there's opportunities definitely at the college level, high school level. I will say check with the different colleges that you're showing interest in and see if they have any programs that will help you be better marketable for the recruiting of that particular program. A lot of colleges, I know for my daughter personally, had a lot of programs before she even became a freshman that she was able to partake in, that they allow her to, you know, shadow people and things of that nature. And also too, from programs like this, right? From formulating relationships. If you have an interest with that, from you knowing me, I could easily one day open up my day to shadow up some people, like, you know, let them know what it's like to be in a day in the life with me for a few hours. So
that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit to pivot, but still stay in the same space? The fact that you a woman, and then you're a woman of color is a double anomaly in the tech space. What is it like to be a woman and a woman of color in the tech space?
I will say the company I'm at now, it's a lot easier. Former companies that I've worked for, I've struggled a lot. I've struggled a lot with the leadership. There's no representation of me as a woman, as a Black woman. There's a lot of things that you find you get overlooked for promotions when you're the most qualified. You get overlooked for so many different things because of I hate to say it, but it's the old boys club in technology. Like that's like a laughing joke in security. I will say that there is not a lot of diversity, especially in the Pittsburgh area. It is changing ever so slowly, but there is not a lot of women at the top. I do know that a lot of organizations are trying to transition into that, but you find yourself being in a place where you don't feel like you measure up based off of the fact of how you're being treated. And I will say to anyone who experiences that, or for the younger generation that's coming up, they'll already know how to handle that. Not to second guess yourself or doubt yourself, and don't even take it personally and have it be a self reflection thing. That's more so of a reflection on them. What I will say is let your light shine even brighter. Continue to execute even sooner. Continue to be the first one there and the last one to leave. Continue to make sure that all of your work is done and never work harder. Always work smarter. They never will ever honor you for the hard work that you do. But when you're smart about the hard work that you do, there's never a question with that. And then you'll have no resentment. So I will say that it's a very tough place to be in. It's not a lot of representation. And that will change soon, right? We train up the younger generation to expose them to careers that we didn't even know what were possible. Oftentimes I speak to a lot of youth and they have never even heard of it. So yeah.
Do you have a mentor in your space, or did you? So when you originally applied for the first position, when you started in the space, you get your certifications, you get some experience, you're starting to make way and carve out your space in the tech industry. Did you have a mentor from the very beginning? Did you gain one? Some of the interviews we've had in the past, some people did and some people didn't. So I'm always curious to see, did a mentor play a role in your success?
So when I got into this field, I never had an actual mentor. I had, when I first got here in 2014, I had an amazing manager. He was definitely a mentor to me throughout my career at that financial institution in Pittsburgh. So for 8 years, I had him and relied heavily on him. He helped guide me. He helped sculpt me into understanding my power, because a lot of times I thought some of the things were outside of me, right? I always was looking externally, and he would be like, what are you doing? You already know this. So it was, I would say a mentor plays a very big role in helping you be confident in your current skill set, right? And it also helps you remain confident in obtaining new skill sets where you're always probably used to knowing something and now you're like, oh, I don't know anything. So I will say that a mentor helps you see you when you're not with your head down in the deep in the weeds. A mentor is outside of you. So I did have one when I first got into my career, but then when I left that organization, I lost touch and I was so lost. It was really hard. It was extremely lonely trying to get over certain obstacles that would come my way, and new things that were coming my way, and opportunities that were coming too soon that I felt like I wasn't ready for. But eventually I got to a place where I understood, okay, now I need to ask for help. So I started to seek out mentors. And now I have a great one. And I will never lose touch with this one. But I will say that even if you don't have one, get one. Find someone who already is where you want to be. Find someone who is willing to teach you how to do that. And that should be your mentor that will hold you accountable, because it is vital, especially in tech.
Thank you. Thank you for that. My next question is kind of flipping a coin a bit. We know that tech, STEM, these are all 21st century skill sets. We know that the job market, like you said, when you see the pay and when you see these things, the future of financial sustainability is all going to be in these spaces like tech, cybersecurity, AI. How do we get the younger people interested, do you believe?
Honestly, exposure, right? The only way to gain interest is to know it existed in the first place, to know that everything that they're doing right now is cybersecurity related. When you can tie it back into like real world, tangible, actionable things that they're already doing, that alone can gain interest because there's a back end to that. Every time you swipe, there's a technology that was created and a program that was coded by a person to allow you to interact with this without having to understand the complexity of that. So I would say exposure. And if they feel like, oh, well, I have never been around it, and you'll be like, yeah, do you have an iPhone or an Android? Yeah, you've been exposed to cybersecurity. Okay. Do you play video games? You know, those are like letting them know it's already stuff that you do currently. Do you want to understand how it's used? Do you want to understand how a person can like basically do bad things if there's not safeguards in place on this said app or this said activity that you're doing? So I would say exposure is something that they would have to get to be able to gain interest in that. And I also think too, making it be more of a regular conversation. This is like a taboo field where I know it's very underserved in the Black community, especially the Black youth, because when the rotation comes in from those organizations and those colleges, I don't see many Black students. So I think that it's our job to give them the exposure to let them know, like, hey, this is not something that you have to be like 12 degrees in to obtain. This is something that you can be, it's tangible now. If you have interest in it, you can do this right now.
Got you, got you. And I guess in most computer science degrees, right, there's two traditional routes. Well, right now the discussion is boot camps versus, or like the boot camp certification route versus going to a traditional 4-year school. What's your thoughts on that first? Being that you came from a non-traditional route as well. Do you think it's worth it to go to the 4-year institution, get the college debt, or if you don't get a scholarship, get the student loan debt, or do you just jump right in, get the certifications, get the job, and you're in the middle of the thick of it? So that's like a conversation going on right now. And what would you advise a student for that? My kind of depiction of it is, I always say, I kind of compare it to being a music artist. Not that I was one, but I say going to this school is like being signed to a label, and going to a boot camp is kind of the independent route, right? You may have more freedom, more flexibility, and there's going to be things you learn in both routes that can make you successful. I really ultimately think if you want it, you'll get it, whether you go to college or a boot camp. But what I've seen in the industry and the jobs that I've worked in is sometimes independent, they're not as technically sound, right? And then sometimes the people who go to the university, they're too strict and rigid and they can't work outside of the box. So I'm interested to get your opinion on that. And what would you encourage? We got high school students, we got a class of 20 people and they're thinking about tech. Some I mean, I'm hearing more and more high school students that I speak to say, I'm not going to college. I'm not getting student loan debt because they've heard their parents say it. I'm just interested to hear your opinion on it.
So the debt is real, right? So for any student, what's your why? Why do you want to pursue this field? Why? Because there's going to be a lot of things that will make you question it if you do love it, let alone if you just did it just because it was something somebody said you should do. Know your why. Your why has to be your driving factor, and you'll always have to circle back to that. So that has to be foundational. Secondly, I would say what type of student are you, right? What type of person are you? Are you a person that benefits from a traditional regimented, structured learning schedule like college and college institution could afford? Or are you a type of person that you can do the quick learning, the fast learning? You can learn something in a week and then excel at the examination, be able to regurgitate that information and apply those skills, right? Some people don't do well. Some people test well, and they do very well on the scoring, but retain no information so that the application isn't there. So I will say that if you're a person that doesn't fast learn and apply, do not do the certification route, even if it looks like debt to you, right? Even if it looks like debt free. Also, too, this industry is kind of strange because you do in the past, and currently again now they're not requiring bachelor's degrees any longer. Well, master's degrees, I'll say. You really can't get too far in cybersecurity without an undergrad now. I have seen people work their way up, but you literally, without at least a bachelor's degree, you will have a hard time getting past that interview, even with the certifications with no experience, right? Because to organizations, that bachelor degree constitutes as experience. Whereas the certification route looks like you just are really smart and great at taking tests. Great, you have your ISSP. Great, you have your Security Plus. Great, you have your Network Plus. But you have no time. You have no experience. And a lot of every actually organization I've worked at looked at that 4-year degree, that undergrad degree. They don't require master levels, right? But a lot of them looked at that 4-year degree as experience for entry level analysts to come into the door. But I would just say if you're not a person that can apply quick, fast knowledge, you have to go through the traditional route in order to do this and to get the time under your belt. But if you can knock this out and be able to apply it and know how to set up a network and know how to put in safe blocks and understand the difference between topography and all of those things, then yeah, you better go that route. But I have never seen an entry level person come in and be able to apply those skill sets. That's why I say that. Now, if you're already working in this industry as like a customer service rep for a company and you've been around some of it and you got a feel of it, then okay. But yeah.
Now, when you say a bachelor's degree, could the bachelor's degree be in anything, or does it have to be in computer science?
No, anything. My bachelor's was in business.
Got you. Okay, so as long as they see you have a BA, you can finish a 4-year degree, they'll give you experience. You add the certifications and those courses with that, and then you got a chance to get hired.
Absolutely. My manager that recruited me into this, he has a history degree. So yes, yes. And that bachelor's degree is what they just consider time served. It's an old standard, but unfortunately it's a stigma that still exists.
Got you. Got you. So as we round up, just a few more questions. Where do you see cybersecurity going? I think we're coming to a crossroads where, I personally feel like if everybody doesn't get into tech, we're headed into some dark waters here where there are people with information and people without information, and it becomes a huge gap. And like you said, there's some people who don't even know that they are interacting every day in security spaces already, and they don't know how to utilize the platform, but they know that they're using it. What's the future of cybersecurity? How does that connect with women, people of color, and ultimately, outside of exposure, how do we get more of the general public to know more about cybersecurity?
So it's an interesting time right now within cybersecurity, within the technology industry at large. There are massive layoffs happening. I personally, and this is just my opinion, I personally think that the landscape will be completely changed, right? This is not a time to be fearful, but we're on the machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence technologies being, it's already here, but we're on the very cusp of the infrastructure taking over and the old way of the old internet being gone. We're on a wave where blockchain technology is going to be the new way. But I will say to people not to be afraid or be fearful because layoffs, they're coming. They don't need us, our tasks. They just probably need one person to handle a whole team's worth of task and time. And guess what? Organizations are going to take that opportunity. They're going to cut the cost because these changes are coming from the top down. And instead of people getting upset and irate and angry about the layoffs, learn new skill sets, sharpen your skills. If you know ChatGPT, prompt engineering is very big, right? Knowing how to utilize the artificial intelligence. Yes, it is all machine learning and it's all generative, but they need humans still to interact with them. And while this transitional phase is happening, this is a time for us to learn these skill sets, to learn the governance around AI, right? That's an asset right there. If you know what's legal and not legal, when you go into these applications and you're putting in your personal information, guess what? You gave away your personal information to this startup company like ChatGPT. OpenAI is a startup company, right? Now they own it. So I see people write in textbooks through ChatGPT, but eventually there will be laws that come back that are not stood up yet because it's still gray areas that will come back and say, guess what? That company owns that proprietary data because you use that information creating that. So I will say, learn new skill sets, learn what the governance around artificial intelligence is. What is the laws around that, right? What are the different programs that utilize artificial intelligence? Hey, my organization, are they integrating AI? So that's a good question to ask at your town halls if you're a current employee. And as a high school student, you utilize a lot of these artificial intelligence softwares to help make your life a little easier as a student. So this is your time and your chance to learn these skills. What is AI? What does that look like? What software can I use to integrate that? These are all skill sets that we need to, all of us, no matter who you are, to be teaching yourself while the information is available, because soon, to your point, the information on the internet won't exist. And you can see this for yourself right now. There might have been things you've seen, and you're like, oh, there was a video here and it's scrubbed from the internet. No trace of it. Information can be changed daily. So while it's readily available and free for us to obtain these skill sets, there's Coursera. They offer amazing free AI training. Google Docs, their certificates. They have a lot of AI information. And there's a lot of different free courses out there. And then, of course, good old YouTube. It's the best university in the world. You can learn everything. And this is when you say, how do we get the exposure to spread awareness? We need to start promoting these free, helpful videos. I know these amazing teachers on YouTube that literally break it down to anyone at any level that will gain interest and help you learn the different terminologies and the different areas within cybersecurity that will help you want to be able to stay interested in it. So, because a lot of people say, oh, you're speaking another language. They're so dismissive of it. So like, we do need to make this more mainstream and more digestible for people so that it doesn't feel like something they don't touch, when meanwhile, they're the very users of it. And you're only as safe as the computer screen in front of you. So yeah.
Appreciate it. Well, that's it for the interview, Tanisha. Please let people know how they can reach you if they want more questions or answers. And again, thank you for joining us today for Tech Talks. We really appreciate it. You gave us a ton of information. This is going to be one of those ones we're going to have to go back and rewind and watch over again just to catch everything that you were giving us. But I appreciate you. Again, before we jump off, please tell people how they can reach you, how they can find you. And again, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name just Tanisha, Tanisha, Austin, like Texas. Or you can email me, which is my first and last name, TanishaAustin412@gmail.com. And just give me like 24 hours to respond. But I'm always reachable, always looking forward to pulling someone up with me See one, do one, teach one. That's my motto. So let's keep it going. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Just hold on for 1 second, Tanisha.
Thank you.